We're here at Hawthorne Pond to see what's going on.
What could you do with a big stack of twigs like this? The bark on the staghorn sumac is very fuzzy. Sumacs also have this bright red fruit. Lots of mushrooms taking advantage of this dead log. We're going off the main trail, following this trail. Watch out for these thorns. You can see the roots coming off this cliff where the water has taken away the land. That's erosion. All of these plants are covered in mud. That probably means that the river rose this high before. That's crazy considering how low it is now. This tree almost makes a bridge. I don't think I want to try it though. Though their flowers aren't out yet, this is a columbine. Soon it will have a red and yellow flower. Hey, look who we see at Hawthorne Pond. What do you have to say, guys?
Well, we come here every weekend, so yeah, this is the best place.
Sweet.
We usually run here.
You usually run here?
Yeah.
Oh, fun. Good to see you guys. Thank you for coming along with me.
Hello friends, welcome back to Exploring with Miss Emily. This week is all about shapes. In art, there are two kinds of shapes. We have geometric shapes and organic shapes. Geometric shapes comes from the term geometry, which is a math term, and geometric shapes have specific names like circle, square, rectangle. They are made by points and lines. An example of a geometric shape is a hexagon, and you can see that in the pattern on my pot right here, a hexagon. So that's an example of a geometric shape. Then we have organic shapes, which are irregular or asymmetric in appearance, and most of the shapes that are found in nature are organic. They typically don't have names, and they're usually curvy in flow. So an example of an organic shape that I have is the leaves on this flower, and also the flowers themselves. We're going to draw some shapes. So to get started, take a walk outside and around your house and gather some shapes. You'll want to have about 5 or so geometric and 5 or so organic shapes. All right, let's get started. All right, so I've gathered some organic shapes and some geometric shapes, so I'm ready to get started. First, let me show you my shapes. I found a candle, and the top of it is a circle. So there's my circle. I found a notepad. The top of it is a square. There's my square. My daughter's school picture, and this is a rectangle. This is a rectangle. I found another rectangle. Find a picture of my cat, and her ears are triangles, so I'm gonna use that for my last geometric shape triangle. All right, my organic shapes. This was an interesting shaped rock, I thought, kind of cool. I found this rock. I found a dandelion in my yard, of course, organic shape. This was a cool leaf that I found. That one's gonna be more challenging to draw, but I like that. I like a good challenge. We have a lot of ivy growing at our house. Here was an ivy leaf I found in my yard. To get started, you are going to need a piece of paper. It doesn't even matter the size or the type of paper, whatever you have laying around. The thicker paper that you have, the better, because next week we are going to paint on this. And you will also need a pencil and a Sharpie if you have one. If you don't have one, don't worry, it's okay, but it is, you will use it. If you have it, great. All right, so the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna look at your paper and you're going to think about your composition. So plan out your art. I'm not going to want to draw all my shapes in one corner because that won't use all of the space on the paper. I would have way too much negative space. I'm gonna start over here. I just love this rock, so I'm gonna start with that. I'm looking at that rock and I'm just kind of trying to draw that shape, and I'm gonna draw with a pencil, and later on I'll go ahead and trace over all my pencil lines with Sharpie. So I'm just trying to get that shape of that rock on my paper, that's all. I'm just drawing by observation. That's about what it looks like. All right, there's a organic shape. I'm gonna move on to a geometric shape. Triangle ears, oh yeah. I like to mix the different types of shapes. So I don't want to have all organic shapes over here and all geometric shapes over here. I really like the idea of a mix of the different types of shapes, okay? So I'm gonna go with this leaf right here. How about a rectangle? Let's get a rectangle in there. Fill the space over here. I'm thinking through how I can use the space so that I don't leave too much negative space on my paper. All right, now I'm gonna go with the dandelion right in the space right here. I think I'm gonna draw a circle up here. I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the rest of the space on my paper, and then I'll show you what I have. All right, so you can see now that I have filled my paper with shapes. There's still negative space, which is the space in the background that's not being used. And you can see that I drew each shape more than once. So I only found one circle in my house, but I drew lots of circles on my paper, and I drew them in different sizes. So you can get as creative as you want to. And if you want to just draw shapes that pop into your head and just totally go by imagination, do that. That is awesome. You don't have to just draw by observation or draw the shapes that you can find around your house. If you want to just draw a mix of organic and geometric shapes that you have in your head, go for it. Once you have your shapes drawn and your space is filled, you will want to start to trace over all of your pencil lines with a Sharpie. If you do not have a Sharpie at home, that is okay. You can use any kind of permanent marker, by the way. It does not have to be Sharpie brand, but if you have a permanent marker at home, trace over all your pencil lines. If you don't, just skip this part. If you have a black, just a regular marker, water-soluble marker, I would not use that because next week we are going to paint in our shapes. So you're really gonna wanna use a permanent marker if you have one to trace over your pencil lines. If you don't have a permanent marker, just leave your pencil lines. That is fine. If you wanna darken them in a little bit with your pencil, that'll be fine so that stands out. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to fill in our negative space. We want to think about a pattern that we can fill that space with. So you'll want to think of a pattern that you can repeat, a repeatable pattern, like dots or lines. I am going to choose lines for my background pattern. I am just going to start to fill in the negative space with lines. Now, look, I'm not going to draw on top, or I'm not going to go over or through my shapes. Those are gonna stay white this week. Like I said, next week we are going to paint over those, but I don't have paint at home, Miss Emily. Don't worry, we are going to make our own paint. So more on that to come next week. Exciting stuff. These are diagonal lines, did you notice that? They're not straight up and down or straight left and right, they are diagonal on my paper. And it doesn't matter if they're spaced perfectly even all the way across. All right, that's it, friends. I drew my organic shapes, I drew my geometric shapes, I used the space well on my paper. Then I went in and I filled the background or the negative space with a repeated pattern. And that's gonna be it for this week, friends. Next week, we are going to paint the insides of our shapes, and we are going to get to make our very own paint for that. So look forward to that next week. See you later, friends.
Oh, engineering on a day like this. More like in yes-gineering. Let's go! For today's video, you're gonna need something worth its weight in gold right around now. Well, really, it's just toilet paper. Our company thinks it's funny by wrapping the last roll in gold. Don't worry, we have plenty more, but we're gonna use a roll of toilet paper today in our lesson. What for? Don't worry, not for that. Toilet paper, because of its shape and material, is perfect to start a native bee colony right in your garden. Do you want native bees? You bet you do. They're responsible for pollinating all of the flowers and all of the vegetables.
Bumblebees are one of the best pollinators.
First thing you gotta do is find the right spot. It needs to be kind of shaded, more for the rain than from the sun, but I found a spot right here under my deck. Check it out. Sometimes it's quoted in a movie that bees shouldn't be able to fly because their wings are too small and their body's too big. Well, with new photography, we can actually see exactly how those wings move. And it turns out they can fly. Of course they can. But they do it not by flapping their arms up and down like this, but rather they move their wings forward and back super fast. And by doing that, they actually create air that comes up and pushes them up. They create little hurricanes that push them up. Crazy, right? Well, in order to do it well, they have to actually flap their wings 250 times or 230 times in 1 second. How long would it take you to flap your arms 230 times? Well, here's your challenge. See how many flaps you can do in 10 seconds, and then you can multiply that by 6. Some of our younger friends are going to need some help with that math, but I bet the rest of you could do it. 230 times in 1 second. Let's see if you can do 230 times in 1 minute. Go for it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now here's something you never thought you would see. Turns out when bees fly off and find some flowers that have pollen and nectar that they love to eat, they have to go back to their nest and then tell the other bees where to find it. This can be huge distances that these bees fly, and so they have to communicate all of that. But of course, bees can't talk like you or I could, so they have to do it in a dance called the waggle dance. Let's see if you can master the waggle dance. So what they do is they waggle forward. What's a waggle? It's kind of like a shake or a shimmy. They waggle forward and then they go to the right if the flowers are going to be a little bit off to the right, or they go to the left if the flowers are going to be a little off to the left. They end up doing a figure 8 with the waggle coming in the middle. I'm going to demonstrate it, but I probably won't get the moves just right. Check out your packet to see how they use their dance to communicate with each other. Here it is. Here's my waggle dance. Waggle. To the right. Waggle. To the left. Now's your turn. Go ahead and share your dance on the family Facebook page or email it to me. My address is right there. Thanks, guys.
And now it's time for Silly Songs with Miss Hillary, the part of the show where Miss Hillary comes out and sings a silly song. This week should really be called Simple Songs with Miss Hillary, or maybe Story Time with Miss Hillary, or some combination of both. Today we're going to use the book Swirl by Swirl by Joyce Sidman in order to find some shapes in nature, with a little music of course, because it is Silly Songs with Miss Hillary. The book Swirl by Swirl, like I said, was written by Joyce Sidman. The pictures are by Beth Cromes, and the publisher is HMH Publishing. Let's take a listen.
Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral? A spiral snuggling shape. It fits neatly in small places. Coiled tight, warm and safe, it waits for a chance to expand. Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral? A spiral is a growing shape. It starts small and gets bigger, swirl by swirl. It unwraps itself, one soft curl at a time. Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral? A spiral is a strong shape. Its outer curves protect what's inside. It knows how to defend itself. A spiral reaches out, too, exploring the world. It winds around and around and clings tight, grasping what it needs. It never has trouble holding on. Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral? A spiral is a clever shape. It is graceful and strong. It is bold and beautiful. A spiral moves. It swirls through water, gathering bubbles. It twists through air with clouds on its tail. It stretches starry arms through space, spinning and sparkling, forever expanding. Or it curls up, neat and small, warm and safe. A spiral is a snuggling shape. Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral?
Man, that was a good book. I really like those pictures. Now head on over to the specials packet to find this week's family activity. You are off on another nature hunt to find swirls this time. You can use the chart in the packet in order to chart your findings, or feel free to take a picture of your swirls and send them to me at hillary.schmidt@innoacademy.com. I would love to see what you find with your family. You can go in your backyard, or to the beach, or to one of the parks in the ODC Park Passport. Eleanor and I went on our own nature hunt today and found lots of swirls around us. We think you will too. Happy swirl hunting!
Tell me, oh tell me, what is a spiral? A spiral is a snuggling shape. It fits neatly in small places. Coiled tight, warm.
Hey guys, just wanted to show you this awesome thing I found out in nature. You see there's a downed tree right there, but from the roots over time, another tree has grown on the riverbed.
This week on Fitness Friday with Miss Katie, we're talking about shapes. So I got all of my favorite shapes here. I have some circles, more circles, a rectangle, a couple cones, okay, and my favorites, okay. Look at that 3D shape. Now these kind of shapes, oh, like get into shape.
This week, we're going to get into shape by using the ODC's Backyard Fitness Challenge. Go to the ODC's website, search your Backyard Challenge, and you will find that is broken down into 3 sections. One section for young 5, kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade, another section for 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and a final section for middle school. In these sections are different activities that you and your family can do right in your own backyard this week, using the things that you can find around your house. In this video, I have taken one activity from each section and demonstrated it for you. Have fun this week. My kindergartners, my first graders, and my second graders, one way that you can get in shape this week is by setting up your own obstacle course. My daughter Madeline and I set this up, and she's going to show you how to do it. She's going to start after I say go, but she's going to go down the slide. She's going to jump over our little sand toys. She's going to rock on the horse, run around the crab, hit the baseball, and kick the ball. Really simple and things that we already had in our backyard. And you can make it harder, you can make it easier, you can do more things or less things, completely up to you. Are you ready? Yeah. On your mark, get set, go! Run around the crab twice. 1, 2. She's gonna go put the ball on the baseball tee and give it a hit. Good job. And then she's gonna kick the ball. Good job. My 3rd and 4th graders, a way that you can get into shape this week is by setting up your own bowling alley. You can do 1 lane, 2 lanes, whatever you have available, go for it. I set up one. My husband cut up one of our veggie straw boxes to block the pins, first off from blowing from the wind, but when I knock them down, they'll also be stuck there and I won't have to chase them down. We have tea bottles and we filled them up with water so that they wouldn't blow over. So if it's a windy day, it wouldn't matter. I use a Frisbee instead of a cone because I don't have cones at home to set up where I'm going to start rolling the ball. Hey, and I am just rolling my daughter's basketball. You can use anything you have. If you have Coke cans, use Coke cans. Put a little water in them and set them out. If you only have 3, you only have 3. If you have 2, that's perfect. Hey, if the smaller can you use or bottle, make sure your ball isn't bigger than that. That adds a little bit of a challenge. Hey, in bowling, remember if you knock them all down on the first roll, it's a strike. If you knock them all down on your second, it's a spare. You get 2 rolls unless you get a strike. For my middle schoolers, a way that you can get in shape this week, one of your options is setting up your own Frisbee golf course. I did it in my side yard. I have tennis balls as my starting points, and I have sand toys as my targets, and you can use anything that you have in your house as well. Okay, I'm gonna walk you really quick through my homemade disc golf course. See, my tennis ball is where I would throw the Frisbee from. This is hole number 1, and I would be trying to land on top of my sand bucket lid here. Okay, my second tennis ball here is the start of hole number 2, and it goes to my blue sandcastle toy all the way here. My goal will be trying to get the Frisbee to hit this toy. Okay, I have a tennis ball for hole number 3, aiming all the way across my yard to a blue bucket that I would also be trying to hit. Okay, and then my 4th and final hole starts right after hole number 3 and aims for a purple sand toy. Okay, you can set up as many or as little as you'd like. Try to make it challenging. Use your whole yard. Remember, in disc golf, you want to do the least amount of throws. The lowest score wins. Okay, the best you could do is hit your goal or hit your target in 1 throw. Throw on the Frisbee, remember your L. The pointer finger goes on the side, thumb on the top, 3 fingers on the bottom. And the Frisbee goes across your body, step, flick your wrist, and follow through toward the target. I hope you had fun getting into shape with me. I'll see you next week. Bye.
Aloha! Guess where we're going today? It's part of the United States, but it's very far away from continental U.S. It's a group of islands called Hawaii. If you guessed Hawaii, you were right. We're going to work on a shape today, and we're going to turn a shape that we designed into a Hawaiian quilt. Now this is a part of a Hawaiian quilt that I cut out. This is made out of fabric, and you're going to make it out of paper. And I'm going to show you how to do it. It starts out kind of like origami with folding paper. So what you're going to need is a piece of paper. You can have regular copy paper, but make sure you cut it into a square. You can't use it the size that it is. So if your copy paper is 8.5 by 11, you have to make it 8.5 by 8.5 square. Now I made one that's a little bit bigger. This is 11 by 11, so you could see it a little easier. And you have to follow step by step to get a design that turns out kind of like this. You also need another piece of construction paper, or this is a piece of tag board, kind of a cardstock, because you're going to, when you get done with your design, this is another one that I designed out of paper, you're going to glue it onto another color, a contrasting color. So you're going to need that. Probably going to need some scissors to cut it out, and make sure that you have permission to use the scissors that you're going to use. So take a look at this quilt, and I want you to tell me, what kinds of shapes do you see in there? Do you see a lot of geometric, square, triangle, circles? Probably not. Almost all of the shapes that are in here are organic shapes. That means they kind of come from nature. So you got to think about things that you might see outside. The Hawaiian people use designs that they saw all the time. Sometimes they did turtles, sometimes they did flowers. There's lots and lots of tropical flowers that grow in Hawaii. This happens to be a sweet pea. This is a kind of a plant that grows in Hawaii. It also grows here. So you could use a plant or a flower that grows here, or you could use an animal even that is here. But they took a shape that they knew, and you can see some of the same shapes are repeated, like this one, this one, this one, this one are all the same shape. And that happens by folding the paper and cutting it out, just like a snowflake. So what I want you to do first is get your paper, fold it in half, and make a nice straight crease so it's folded in half. That's the first step. Next, we're going to fold it again to make it into a square. So it's going to look like this. Then you have to fold it one more time on the diagonal. Remember what diagonal means? From corner to corner, so it looks like this. So now you've got your basic shape that you're going to start with. One end of it has open parts. The other end is a folded part. You want to put the folded part at the bottom and the other one at the top, because we're going to start working about 1 inch from that spot. So I'm going to make a little mark on there so I can see where 1 inch is, because that's gonna be the part that holds it together in the middle. You don't want to cut that off. So you're going to leave that. You're going to start right there with your design. So if I decided, oh, I really like tulips, that's what I did for the one that I showed you for a sample. I had tulip shapes in there. If I want to do another kind of flower, like a sweet pea or something else, or even a turtle, I'm going to start where that dot is, but I'm not going to cut it out yet. I'm just going to draw it first and see what I come up with before I cut it out. You're only going to draw half of the design. So if you're going to draw a turtle, you only have to draw half of the turtle. It's kind of like making a heart. You know, when you make a heart on the crease, and then you cut it out, and you open it up, and it's the whole heart. Well, it's the same kind of idea. So I'm going to carefully draw it, and I'll show you as soon as I get done whatever I decide to draw. Let's see. Maybe I'll do some more leafy shapes. And maybe that's almost like seaweed when I got it done. Then you can see where the creases are. You don't want to cut that bottom off. You want to start at that dot that I made. So I'm going to cut it right through there. I'm going to go around it and around it. But I'm not going to cut through I'm not going to cut through this bottom part, because that's going to be the center of our design. Our shape's just going to go around. You can use whatever kind of shape you want. It can be things that look like palm leaves. I'll show you some pictures of some Hawaiian quilts that have different kinds of shapes in them after I show you how to cut this out. So I'm going to keep going. The part that I'm going to get rid of is this part out here. I'm going to keep the part that's in the middle by the middle fold. You always draw on next to the fold. This part's open over here, so I'm going to go around and around until I get this shape out. Now I'm not quite done. I have to cut this top part out That I can cut off because that's by the corner that's not folded. So I'm going to go around and around. And now this is what I get. I get a shape that looks like, it's kind of looking like seaweed. And now I'm going to open it up just like you would a snowflake. Whoa! It's always amazing what kind of a design you get when you do that. And this would be the design that I just got. Now, if you cut on the wrong side, the first time I did it, I goofed it up. I cut on the other corner. Look what happened. It all came apart. There was no middle anymore. So you want to make sure that you always start it like I showed you. You start by making a dot. And you start drawing from that dot, leaving that folded corner intact so that when you open it up, you have a Hawaiian quilt design with a shape that you designed, an organic shape that you designed. And that's the same way I did this, only I did it on a really, really big piece of paper, and I cut it out of fabric. And what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to sew it onto another piece of fabric and make a hanging quilt out of it. Now I want to show you a couple examples of some designs. This is a book on quilting designs, and you can see lots of different things you can do with it. And you could make, here's a part of one. You could make flower shapes, or you could make anything that is in nature that you want to use. But pick an organic shape, one that's not a square, a circle, or a triangle, and draw it just like I showed you after you fold your paper, okay? So let's see if you can create a Hawaiian quilt design. Thank you.
All right, amigos, this is your quiz, your prueba, your examen. Well, not really. Don't be freaked out. It's just questions about me. See if you can get, of the 5 questions, if you can get all 5 right, I have a prize for you. When was the last time I ate Taco Bell? Number 2. How many siblings, hermanos, do I have? Numero 3. Which one of these have I never done? Eaten 17 tacos in one sitting, climbed a mountain, went skydiving, or biked to school in the morning. Numero 4. Is the Spanish dictionary my favorite book? And numero 5. What's my best friend's name? Okay, see if you can do that, guys. Adios. Have a great week.